Dennis was a legendary chef whose magic abilities surpassed even the strongest adventurers, but when jealousy got him kicked out of his party, he decided to remove drama from his life and opened a restaurant to live peacefully. His story began as a homeless kid who was taken in and trained by the legendary chef Gene. He later joined the world's strongest adventurers party named the Silver Wings Battalion. However, the leader Vigo secretly hated him. The party went deep into the dungeon to defeat a cave dragon and harvest its rare parts for a noble client. They struggled as they strung together combination attacks against the monster. One of the members got injured during an exchange, so Dennis rushed to her side to heal her. Vigo got salty when he noticed his vice captain Katie admiring Dennis's act of kindness, so he deliberately sent the cave dragon into a frenzy by discreetly attacking its eye. The party was in danger of being wiped out, so Vigo ordered Dennis to use his intimidation skill called Dread Voice to make the monster flee. This allowed the group to leave the dungeon without any fatalities. Later, a meeting was held between all the high-ranking members of the party, excluding Katie. Vigo was the highest by far at level 99. He started to blame Dennis for their recent failure, and even denied that he ordered the cook to use his intimidation skill. The party leader accused Dennis of being a spy for a rival party and banished him. Everyone averted their gaze from Dennis with reluctant approval. Vigo added that a cook didn't deserve to be in the Silver Wing Battalion. It was only supposed to be for high-level swordsmen and priest magicians. Dennis took his statement as fighting words and summoned his cleavers. Vigo grabbed his weapon as he disclosed that Dennis was also at level 99, but he didn't value his skills because he was a chef. The cook didn't see the point in fighting to stay in a place that didn't want him, so he left. He packed up his things and prepared to leave the capital when a little girl bumped into him. She got upset as her balloon flew away, but Dennis swiftly recovered it for her. He told the girl not to let go of something that was important to her. The chef was optimistic about the next chapter of his life. Vigo watched the cook leave the capital as he planned his next move. Katie stopped Dennis outside the city and demanded to know why he got kicked out. She was worried about who would fulfill his role as the chef who was not only their medicine maker, but also their alchemist. He was sure that there were other members who had those skills, so they would be fine. Katie noted that their party's ability to explore dungeons drastically increased after he joined. She knew it was one of the key factors that made them the strongest adventurer group in the world. No one in the party was aware that he was also supporting their rear guard. He appreciated the kind words, but refused the offer to return. She at least wanted him to cook one last meal for them. He told her of his plan to open his own restaurant and thanked her for inviting him to join the Silver Wings in the first place. Dennis knew that Vigo had a thing for Katie and didn't like how well the chef got along with his crush. It was part of the reason he got rid of him. The chef waved her goodbye, and after a short while, he arrived in a small dungeon town to begin his new life. His first stop was Polvo's store. The merchant had such quality wares that Dennis almost bought an expensive magic item called an icebox for his ingredients. However, he stopped himself and referred to his manual on how to open a restaurant as a former adventurer. It advised him to keep his startup capital as low as possible, so he decided not to take it since he could use ice magic himself to keep his food fresh. He continued to follow the rules in the book as he found an abandoned building to buy for a bargain with the intention to renovate it. He also met with suppliers and distributors. The progress he made so far only increased his motivation. Dennis read the passage on the importance of getting a server to ensure good customer service. His thoughts were interrupted by the commotion caused by an auction. He joined the crowd and was mortified that a girl named Atelier was the prize. It revealed that she was from a great noble house and only ended up in this state because her parents lost a succession battle. He was compelled to help when he saw the look in her eyes because he had the same look of despair when he was on the streets. He stunned everyone with a million bid. Polvo came in with 1.5 million because he was interested in having the young lady to serve him. Dennis knew his intentions were not good, so he spent over 4 million to make sure the lady didn't end up in his hands. The two returned to the restaurant and the cook insulted Polvo for making him spend so much. He used up almost all his money, but he had enough to have her cleaned up and in a new set of clothes. Atelier lingered behind him and ended up getting lost for a moment. She started to get tense, but a soft call from the cook calmed her down. When they arrived home, she wanted to know the reason for the purchase. He simply told her that a memory triggered him to do so and asked for her name. Atelier introduced herself. The cook let her use the second floor of the building how she saw fit, and even gave her the option to leave if she desired. Her stomach was the first to answer, so Dennis used his exceptional skills to prepare some fried rice for her. The steps he took to make it were so flawless that Uncle Roger would give him the uncle title. The chef served the food for the two of them, and Atelier's face exploded with amazement when she tasted it. She started to cry, and Dennis knew it was a release of all the terrible things she had endured and bottled up. Atelier almost choked on the food because it was so good. Over the coming days, she decided to help Dennis set up his eatery till they were eventually ready to open the adventurer's restaurant. She accepted the additional role as poster girl. Their first customer came in, and it was an armor-clad adventurer which perplexed them. He recalled that his book told him to give customers their space when they enter his restaurant. Dennis encouraged his first patron to pick any seat and told Atelier to serve them water. The armor-clad warrior picked up the menu and pointed to the cheapest items. The chef suspected that they might be broke, so he offered to make them a more substantial meal. The adventurer spoke for the first time as they confessed to not having the money for such food. Dennis wasn't going to have his first customer have a meager meal, so he was going to make it for free. He realized that it was a female voice that came out the armor, so she removed her helmet and introduced herself as Henrietta. She was a level 23 swordsman who was recently kicked out of her party because they believed female swordsmen were weak. Dennis agreed that gender didn't really matter, and she was more than qualified given her level. Henrietta looked up to Katie since she was a female swordsman and the vice captain of the strongest party. Currently, Henrietta was trying to hide her gender as she searched for a party. It was difficult to join a party without talking, so she was low on cash due to a lack of work. Dennis discouraged her from crying as he presented the food. She was stunned by the spread before her and aggressively started to munch on the meal after her first bite. The chef laughed as she commented on how she had never eaten anything so good before. Within a short while, she finished the food and promised to pay it back as soon as she started to make money. Dennis offered to ask his customers if they knew any parties that would take a female swordsman. He told her to stop by the restaurant for any updates. The food joint quickly started to get busier, and the customers loved the food. The chef overheard some adventurers discussing entering a dungeon. He confirmed that they were a party before asking if they were interested in having a female swordsman join their party. They were willing to recruit her, and even wanted her to follow them on their trip to the dungeon the following day. Henrietta later returned to the restaurant and was surprised that Dennis managed to find her a party so quickly. He advised her to be more careful before joining them, but Henrietta dismissed his warnings, so he just left the decision to her. He served her some food and guessed that she planned to have all her meals at the restaurant going forward. Henrietta left to prepare for her meeting with her new party. Dennis' last customers for the day were a pair of female mages. He overheard them talking about a party that had been deliberately hiring solo female adventurers. They lured their target deep into the dungeon before assaulting them. The offending party then moved to the next town after they carried out 2 attacks. Dennis started to suspect that the guys who were so willing to accept Henrietta might be the culprits. The following day, the excited swordswoman met up with her new party and went to the dungeon after a brief introduction. While in the forest, they were reluctant to give her the details of their quest, which she found strange, but she didn't want to annoy them and get kicked out, so she just followed. The guys stood back and allowed her to do all the fighting. She wanted to impress, so she dispatched the monsters as swiftly as possible. She ended up getting so exhausted that she struggled to keep up with her party. She finally got a chance to rest when they arrived at the crystal mining area. The mage was ordered by the party leader to cast a recovery spell on her, but he stunned her instead. Henrietta couldn't grab her weapon in time as her hand got crushed. The party of sick losers tried to attack her, but Dennis made it in time and made his presence known by smacking the leader back. He disguised himself by putting a bag over his face, but his anger could be seen through it. The chef was so intimidating that they thought he was a monster at first and tried to scan his stats to find his weakness. However, this failed because his level was too high. Dennis turned his cleavers to the blunt side and used it to beat down the sick losers. Henrietta got a glimpse of the beat down before falling unconscious and noted that her savior moved like a highly skilled chef. She later narrated her ordeal to Dennis and how she woke up in the Adventurers Guild. Her attackers were left unconscious and tied up at the entrance of the dungeon. It was revealed that they were wanted men. Henrietta now understood why she needed to be more careful when choosing a party. Dennis felt responsible since he was the one who linked her to those bad actors. She didn't place the blame on him, but her stomach was crying for some food. The 2 mage ladies also entered the restaurant as he finished cooking Henrietta's meal. She realized that Dennis was the one who saved her when the duo asked why his shop was closed the previous day. She noticed that the structure of the chef was the same as her baghead savior. The restaurant opened for another day of business, and Henrietta ordered a bowl of ramen. While Dennis was making it, she asked if she should continue to hide her gender. He simply told her to do what she felt comfortable with, because that would be the true expression of herself. His words resonated with her, so she went to the back to remove her armor and embrace the fact that she was a swordswoman. The chef was happy to see this, but he just hoped that she was searching for another party because her tab was running up. She was shocked to hear this, so he reminded her that only her first meal was free. Their argument was interrupted when Vivia entered. His ambiguous look confused them all, but they couldn't deny that he was attractive. Vivia asked for a recommendation, but he shot down Dennis and Henrietta's suggestion, which annoyed the chef. Atelier suggested he order the fried rice, so Dennis got to work and whipped up a plate. Vivia took one bite and tried his best to hide his reaction to how tasty it was. The chef could also see that he had something on his mind he wanted to talk about and offered a listening ear. Vivia tried to act like there was nothing wrong at first, but soon started to talk when it seemed like everyone was about to lose interest. They were a little perplexed when he hit a pose as he stated that the level of those around him was too low. He was recently kicked out of his party because of his arrogance, but he felt like his old comrades rather had a poor mindset. Dennis wondered why his restaurant was attracting such outcasts. Vivia was not deterred because he was confident that he would become the greatest wizard and join the Silver Wing Battalion. He paid for his meal and introduced himself before leaving. He let them know that he might come for the shrimp fried rice next time. A couple of days later, he came for his fried rice, and he revealed that he would be joining the strongest party in town, which was the Night Mist Troop. Dennis congratulated him, but just hoped that he was at the level to join such a party. Vivia had already planned his ascension to the Silver Wing and the cool nickname he would be given. Dennis had a dismal look on his face because he had the nickname of Legendary Fried Rice when he was a member of the Silver Wing Battalion. He was a little worried when he heard that Vivia's first request would be to gather materials from the 5th floor. The chef checked his stats, and the lad was only at level 17. It was high given his age, but it was not enough to explore the 5th floor. According to the guild, one needed to be in the high 30s to explore the 5th floor. He voiced his concern, but Vivia assured him that elite members were tagging along with him for full support. Dennis recalled the lad bragging about his advanced skills. The chef guessed that he likely only learned them from a book and has little combat experience. A person's level was an indication of the number and quality of skills they have acquired. One's base stats increased with each level because they became more proficient with the skills they had learnt. The higher the level, the more active the skills were. Dennis found it strange that Vivia's level hadn't increased to reflect the advanced skills he had learnt. The last time that the chef went to the dungeon, it was to the 37th floor. Vivia was confident that he would be fine because he was with a highly ranked party. He paid for his food and left. The following day, Dennis and Atelier went to the market to buy some supplies when they overheard two adventurers talking about how they abandoned Vivia on the 5th floor. Hopper, the party leader, normally used this as a test to see who was worthy of joining his party. The chef dragged the two into an alley and beat them up for their actions. Atelier knew he was going to save the lad and asked him to be careful. He assured her that all would be well as he gave her a fist bump. All the while, Vivia frantically ran as he was getting chased by some goblins. His goal was to get to the 3rd floor, but a vine caught his leg, causing him to fall. He tried to think of a spell that he could use to free himself, but his mind went blank because he didn't have the experience to cast spells in such high-stress environments, despite having all that knowledge. He started to despair as he thought about the horrific ways the goblins were about to end his life. He was able to escape and find a hiding place with the help from a girl called Cynthia. The lad thanked her for teaching him the spell to free himself. She informed him of how she was also abandoned by her party. As the two spoke, Vivia realized that he had been an arrogant person. His near-death experience had exposed his flaws. For the first time in his life, he was willing to do something for someone else. The goblins had come around again, and he was ready to distract them to allow Cynthia to escape. She tried to stop him from running out. The lad confronted the monsters and attempted to hold them back with his palm spell, which summoned a giant hand. The goblins tore through it and were ready to finish him off, but Dennis, in his baghead disguise, erupted a giant pot to protect the lad. Vivia mistook Dennis for a monster and started to attack, but he recognized his voice and stopped. The chef didn't see the point in hiding his identity and removed the bag. Vivia insisted that they needed to take Cynthia along with them. The boy was stunned when Dennis checked the hiding place and found a skeleton. They returned to the guild to ask about her. It was revealed that Cynthia was a wizard that got separated from her party 13 years ago. She must have lost her life on the 5th floor. Dennis and Vivia went to bury her remains. The chef told the lad that the spirits of adventurers who have perished in a dungeon have been known to save their living comrades. Vivia got emotional as he thanked her for saving him. He promised to keep visiting her grave and vowed to become the best wizard in the world so that he can save girls like her before they lost their lives. Dennis offered to make him some fried rice to cheer him up. Cynthia's spirit waved them off as they left. A couple of days later, we were introduced to Bachel. She was a highly talented level 32 mage who was recruited by the Night Mist Troop. but her dream of being a member of a top party soon became a nightmare. She was overworked and underappreciated. One night she decided to go out to get some food since she had not eaten the whole day due to the workload. Every other food store was closed, and she noticed that the adventurer's restaurant was also about to shut down. Atelier saw her standing there and dragged her in as their last customer. Bachel chose the daily special. While she waited, she noticed how nice the atmosphere at the restaurant was, as the regulars chattered with the chef. Her food was served after a short wait, and she remarked on how delightful it was after her first bite. The interaction between everyone at the restaurant made her laugh, but this soon turned to tears, because she didn't know that the world had such good food that was coupled with a place with this nice of a vibe. This was a stark contrast to the world she lived in, which was full of anxiety and overwork. Bachel recalled how everyone at her small village gathered their money to sponsor her to study at the magic school at the capital. She was so brilliant that she skipped grades and graduated earlier. The head offered her a position as a member of the faculty. However, she rejected the offer to make money as quickly as possible so that she could send it back to her village. Her flashback ended as she paid and left her meal unfinished. Everyone was a little worried about her. Vivia stated that she was part of the Night Mist troupe, and he didn't like the way they were treating her. Henrietta asked Dennis to help her, but he told her that he was just a cook. He believed that Bachel was the only one who could get herself out of this mess. She went to bed and ended up oversleeping. Her seniors berated her for keeping them waiting since they were supposed to explore a dungeon together. While inside, she saved one of her seniors from a monster. Instead of being praised, she was rather pushed to the ground and criticized for embarrassing her superior. This was the final straw for her because she felt very useless, even though she wasn't. So when they returned to town, she went up to the bell tower to voluntarily go to the next world. Luckily for her, Henrietta and Vivia spotted her and decided to follow her. The swordswoman leapt after her and grabbed her while Vivia cushioned their fall with his palm spell. They brought her straight to the restaurant for her to recover and told Dennis what happened. After hearing them out, he concluded that Bachel suffered from illness of the heart. The only thing that could help would be for her to get a long rest. The chef decided to try and talk to her party. Hopper and his men later came to take Bachel from the restaurant. The party leader apologized for the trouble she had caused. Dennis also said sorry for the men he knocked out earlier. He scanned Hopper's stats, and he was level 51, which was good by normal standards. The chef outlined his worries about Bachel's health and his hopes that they would allow her to leave to get treatment. Hopper ordered one of his men to present Dennis with her contract. The chef got annoyed when he read it because it was so exploitative. All the while, Bachel had woken up and was upstairs with Atelier. The ex-noble narrated her life story and the misery she faced. She also wanted to leave their world, but eating Dennis's food made her realize there were good things still worth living for. Atelier advised that Bachel did the same. Back downstairs, things were heating up as Dennis confronted Hopper, who thought that he could do whatever he wanted because he was the head of the strongest party in town. He even threatened to burn the restaurant. Katie came to visit her old friend at the perfect time. She liked the vibe of the restaurant since it had that familiar feel. Hopper took a closer look at Katie and her outfit and quickly realized that she was the vice captain of the Silver Wing Battalion. She got a little annoyed when Hopper addressed her using her nickname because they were not that familiar. He wondered what kind of relationship Dennis had with Katie, given how casual he was with her. Everyone was stunned when she revealed that Dennis was a former member of the Silver Wing Battalion and the vice captain's partner. Hopper didn't want to make an enemy of someone like Dennis, so he ordered his man to burn Bachel's contract. He allowed her to leave the party and excused himself. Katie was upset that they tried to mess with her Dennis. The chef didn't recall ever belonging to her. She was ready to have Hopper banished from their kingdom, and not long after, Atelier and Bachel came down. The ex-noble asked for the daily special for her. Katie requested the same. They ate it together and loved it. Katie asked him to come back to the Silver Wing because the party was falling apart without him. He was so important in the rear guard that those who were suffering due to his absence were starting to resent Vigo. Dennis was happy with his new life, so he rejected the offer. She returned to the capital, and Vigo had already heard about her trip to go see Dennis. He made it clear that he was not going to ask the cook to return. He also ordered her to stop communicating with him. Meanwhile, business was booming at the restaurant. Luckily for him, Bachel decided to stay and help with the service. Henrietta and Vivia placed their orders and still had the same reaction as when they first tasted the food. The swordswoman was reminded of her tab again. Dennis asked Vivia to meet him at the restaurant on their next day off. He wanted to discuss something with the lad. Henrietta went home thinking that she was about to get banned from the restaurant due to her mooching. The day finally came, and Dennis's worry had nothing to do with Henrietta. The chef suspected that Atelier had a boyfriend because he saw her walking with a lad. Vivia tried to calm him down by telling him that they were likely just friends. Dennis was on edge because he was the guardian of Atelier. He wouldn't acknowledge any guy who was less than a level 80. They got startled when Atelier came over to find out what they were discussing. Vivia thought fast and told her that the chef was about to teach him how to cook. Atelier also expressed interest, so Dennis held a masterclass on how to prepare a dish. Going through the process with her reminded him of his time with Jean when he was younger. After some hard work, they both finished their dish, but Dennis gave all his attention to Atelier, which made Vivia feel neglected. The former noble suddenly excused herself before they could taste the food. Dennis was sure that she was going to meet the boy in question, so he left Bachel and Henrietta in charge, and even gave them permission to eat the food they made while he and Vivia went to investigate. The chef got more agitated when Atelier and the mystery boy entered the jeweler's. Vivia had an idea on how they could listen in on their conversation. He whipped out a magic megaphone and turned it toward the shop window at the back. This allowed them to listen on the conversation. Dennis was mortified as he heard Atelier admiring a piece of jewelry. Their eavesdropping was interrupted when a thief with wind magic swiped the bag full of money from an old lady. Dennis chased him down with the help of Vivia, but fortunately he ran into Henrietta and Bachel, who were doing some shopping for the restaurant. The swordswoman sprang into action and captured the culprit. Everyone went back to the restaurant, where Dennis put Henrietta's worry to bed by letting her know that he would not be banning her. His worries were also laid to rest when Atelier came in with a bracelet for Dennis. She was saving all her money to get it for him, and the lad she was meeting with was someone from the jeweler's. The bracelet was the same color as the chef's eyes. He was so grateful for the gift. Meanwhile, at the capital, Vigo went to meet with an important noble. One day the restaurant was about to close for lunch when Atelier's old butler came in all emotional because he had finally found her. He revealed that she was from the Workstat family. Henrietta and Dennis were oblivious to the name, but Vivia and Bachel were stunned by this disclosure. The Workstat family had the greatest lineage of wizards in the kingdom. The butler stated that it was time for Atelier to take back what was rightfully hers. Dennis got offended when the old man expressed his disbelief that Atelier was doing manual work in such a place. He had come on an official order from the royal court to bring Atelier back to the capital. After her father's demise, her uncle Joseph stole her inheritance by casting doubt on the legitimacy of her Workstat blood by stating that she was the child of a mistress. Her father's will was recently discovered, and it revealed that Atelier was the rightful heir to the house of Workstat. The government had recognized the will, and the court wanted to officially prove Atelier's legitimacy. The noble girl was not interested in proving anything, but Dennis reminded her that she would have to confront this someday. Atelier was only ready to go to the capital if the chef accompanied her. He was more than happy to support her, and he advised her to accept whatever they gave her. The day of their departure had come, and Vivia was also tagging along. They were all dressed formally for the court hearing. Bachel and Henrietta were left to tend to the restaurant while they were gone. Atelier wanted to get this over with and return as quickly as possible. They soon arrived at the capital, and Vivia was in awe at the sights, as it was his first time in the big city. He got hyped when they passed Black's restaurant, because it was known to serve the best food in the capital. Dennis made a mental note to pay them a visit, but he knew he would have to lead with an apology. Their mini sightseeing trip came to an end when they got to the royal court, where they were greeted by Sestovich. He was the barrister handling their case, so led them to a room where Atelier's blood would be tested. The noble girl was terrified of needles and passed out when it was used to take a sample. Her father possessed powerful hypnosis magic, which he used to help so many people. This was a rare ability that was passed down the Workstat bloodline. Atelier's legitimacy would be proven if her blood showed the markers for such magic. Her uncle Joseph was the one who eliminated her mother and father because he wanted the family head position. He then managed to get Atelier expelled and placed in a position which would make it impossible for her to challenge him. Unfortunately for Joseph, his brother left a will. Atelier's blood was tested against her father's first using a device, and it was a match. That was not the point of contention. The reason for her exile was because of the claim that she was not the child of her father's wife. The wife's blood was also tested against Atelier's, and it proved that she was her mother. Sestovich was confident that they had a case. All that was left was to replicate the test in front of the highest judge in the kingdom. Joseph was present and insulted Dennis for getting kicked out of the Silver Wing. From his statement, the chef guessed that he was one of Vigo's clients and promised to make his wallet cry for messing with Atelier. The judge addressed the chef as Dennis Blacks as he reprimanded him for his words. Vivia wondered if he had links to the Black restaurant. Atelier nervously held on to Dennis as Joseph restarted his claim that the girl was the daughter of a mistress, so she had no right to be the heir of such a prestigious family. The little girl's blood was drawn in front of everyone again and tested against her father and mother. To make it fair, everyone drew lots to choose who would be the one to administer the test. The butler won the honor. He stepped up and tested the dad's sample against Atelier's, and it was a match. Next was her mother's, but this time, for some reason, it was not a match. Dennis sensed that there was foul play and confronted the butler. It was revealed that he used his own blood to contaminate the test. The old man revealed that he was promised his old job by Joseph if he did it. Dennis got livid when he realized that the judge was also part of the conspiracy. His arms burst into flames as he was about to attack those responsible. Vivia was able to calm him down when she pointed out the consequences if he was to act. His conduct was overlooked because the judge was also at fault. It was ruled that Atelier would be given the knowledge and books of House of Workstat, but her uncle would keep the family head title, along with the wealth and power of the Workstat estate. After the hearing, Sestovich took them to the old building that housed the books. As they looked through the place, Atelier triggered a secret library which had such rare books that the collection would be considered a world treasure. Sestovich suspected that this collection was the inheritance her father intended to leave for her. Atelier wanted to make the books available at the restaurant for everyone to read. They prepared to leave the following day, and Vivia bumped into Heath, who looked like Dennis, but he gave off a completely different vibe. The restaurant quickly became the best hangout spot in the kingdom for mages and those who pursued knowledge. There was a line out the door, and those who made it inside couldn't believe the collection of books that was available for them to read for free. Dennis made it clear that customers that finished eating had to leave to clear space. One wizard pled to be allowed to take the book he was reading with him because it had the information needed to cure his wife's disease. Atelier gave him special permission. Some of the other mages also asked to borrow the books, but they were rejected. Dennis collapsed due to overworking. He later woke up with a fever surrounded by his worried friends. He was concerned about the restaurant, so they assured him that it had been closed till he recovered. Atelier placed a cool bag on his head, which helped him go back to sleep. During that interval, he had a flashback about his childhood. Chef Jean took him off the street as a reward for returning her wallet when she dropped it. She made him a plate of her fried rice, and young Dennis cried as he wolfed it down because it was so delicious. He was later adopted by Jean, but the lad was a troublemaker, so one day he made his own fried rice and served it to a customer at the restaurant. The lady tasted it and gave the same reaction as when Uncle Roger watches a Jamie Oliver fried rice video. It almost ended in a disaster, but Jean took one look at Dennis's food and fixed it with a wave of her hand. The customer was amazed by how delightful it was when she was asked to taste it again. Dennis later apologized to Jean for messing up. He promised to work hard now that he understood how critical it was to use his skills correctly. The flashback ended, and Sestovich came in to read some of the rare books. He walked in on Vivia, Bachel, and Henrietta trying to make some food to help the chef recover his health. He joined in after he got briefed on the situation. They decided to make him a rice porridge dish, but couldn't agree on the best way to cook it. Polvo heard that Dennis wasn't well and came to sell them a magic item called a rice box, which made perfect rice dishes. They bought one and used it to make their rice porridge. Atelier suggested they add eggs for its nutritional benefits. Dennis regained consciousness again, but his fever had subsided. Atelier presented him the rice and egg dish everyone made for him. One taste gave him the same warm feeling he had when he first ate Jean's food. He was puzzled to learn that Polvo also contributed to the making of the meal. The main cast at the restaurant were all excited because they were going to the hot springs to relax. Naturally, the food joint was closed for the day. After a well-needed soak in the hot water, everyone gathered for a tableside BBQ meal. It was also a special occasion because a few members of the group were moving on to the next phase of their lives. Henrietta had finally got a job as a knight for the kingdom. Vivia had found a party that accepted his eccentric personality, and Bachel was heading back to her village to spend some time with her parents before taking a job at the magic school as an instructor. They cheered to their new beginnings and feasted on the food. Each of them was a little sad that they were going to leave the restaurant. However, Dennis reminded them never to let go of something that was important to them. He treated everyone to some fried rice, and just as they were about to dig in, they overheard someone already munching on the food. They looked over to find Polvo holding a plate. Dennis still found him to be creepy, but thanked him for providing the rice box that was used to make the comfort meal when he was sick. The chef was going to use the magic item to come up with some new dishes for his menu. The merchant heard they were having a BBQ, so he decided to treat them to top-grade meat. Dennis didn't reject this gesture. and cut it into perfect pieces for them to enjoy. As they ate, Vivia asked Dennis about his association to the Black's family. He confessed that the head chef of the restaurant took him in and allowed him to use the name. However, he got in an argument with Jean when he was getting close to level 90 and walked out. Upon reflection, he was sure that his mentor was just trying to advise him to stay humble. The chef was currently at level 99, and after experiencing so much since his departure from Black Restaurant, he could not hit level 100. While the group were having fun, the duo female mages made their way to the restaurant to get a late-night meal. They were disappointed to find it closed, but it got worse when some members from the Night Mist troupe pushed them out of the way. The mages couldn't take such disrespect, so they used their magic to apprehend their attackers. Their victory was short-lived when their attention was drawn to the restaurant that was set on fire. Meanwhile, the party were on their way home from their day of relaxation. Dennis sobered up quickly when he spotted the smoke coming from the area where his restaurant and home was. He rushed over, and his worst fears were manifested. The blaze had engulfed the building, and nothing could be done. The culprits made it clear that this was a message not only from the Night Mist troupe, but also the Silver Wing Battalion and House Workstat. After the blaze finished devouring everyone's hard work, Dennis entered and was hit with all the memories they had built there. The priceless books were all torched. Everyone began to blame themselves, but Dennis took full responsibility. Vivia thought they should retaliate, but the chef only wanted a simple life, so he was willing to go to a different town and start again. The others also thought they should fight, but Dennis knew he was outmatched when it came to facing the greatest noble house and adventurers party. He also didn't want to put others in danger. The chef took Atelier with him to retrieve their savings from their safe. He apologized to her because her inheritance was destroyed, but she was more concerned that Dennis looked so sad. They promised to return to this town when things calmed down, because they really enjoyed their time there. The two stepped out to find themselves confronted by the adventurers and residents from the town. They understood that he didn't want to see others suffer and preferred to be the one hurting. However, everyone that stood before him was willing to help the chef, even at the cost of their lives, because they wanted him to stay in their town. Seeing their determination made him feel pathetic, because he preached the significance of not letting go of the important things in life. He was currently trying to let go of something important. Atelier pulled on his shirt and expressed her resolve to fight with a simple nod. They all cheered when Dennis chose to retaliate, so Atelier decided to name their resistance group Outcasts Restaurant. Katie frantically joined them as she had come to stop the arson attack, but she was too late. The vice captain apologized on behalf of the Silver Wing, but Dennis didn't blame her. She overheard Vigo giving the order to the Night Mist troupe to burn the restaurant. Katie still had her duty to protect her party, so she couldn't give them overt support. So she indirectly informed him that Joseph, Hopper, Vigo, and the judge from the royal court were meeting to have a very important meal. Based on this information, Dennis came up with a plan to get his revenge. He and his group of helpers discreetly made their way to the capital. While en route, it was disclosed that Jean had achieved level 100. The average person's limit was level 60. However, outstanding individuals could break through that limit. Out of those exceptional talents, only a few could surpass level 80. And out of that elite pool, the number of people that could reach above level 90 were even less. Those who managed to attain such heights were capped at level 99. The superhumans that could break through that impossible limit attained level 100 and went down in history as rank sovereign. The founders of human civilization were all rank sovereigns. Jean had only honed her cooking skill to that level, but her combat abilities were lacking. Someone of her level had a lot of clout in the capital, so would be the best ally to have. The party split into various groups as soon as they reached their destination. Vivia used his good looks to get priority treatment for his fabric order. Henrietta went to go see Sestovich and explained their plan to him to see if they could build a criminal case against those who wronged them. During that interval, the others gathered all the pieces needed. The wizard who borrowed the book to cure his wife spotted Atelier. He was on his way to return it because he was able to use it to heal his beloved. He gave it to the noble lady and showed his gratitude. He could see they were working on something and offered to help with his high-level wind skills. Polvo and Atelier accepted his assistance. All the while, Dennis returned to Black Restaurant for the first time in many years. Everyone was so happy to see him. The current sous chef only saw her role as temporary because they hoped for his return. She escorted him to see Jean. Dennis was shy, and his foster mother remarked on how the look on his face had improved. He confessed that he had not found the answer to attaining level 100. She knew he came because he wanted something. Dennis didn't hesitate to ask for her help in finding out the time and place of the enemy's meeting. As a chef, It was against her philosophy to disrupt a meal. Dennis made it clear that he was retaliating for the sake of his restaurant and those who enjoyed his cooking. Jean smiled after hearing his answer because it showed that he had matured a little since his departure. She agreed to find the information he requested. Despite giving him everything he needed to be successful, the head chef omitted an important lesson. This was the final cue needed to achieve level 100. Jean disclosed that achieving the highest level could only be done by transforming into the type of person that was capable of breaking through that limit. The difference between level 99 and 100 was minuscule, and that final piece was always within the individual. Dennis left still confused. He later received a paper that had the details of the evil meeting on it. This was the last thing they needed to finish their preparations. The following day, Vigo set off for the meeting. While on the carriage, he thought about his goal, which triggered him to have a flashback of his life so far. He had a younger brother who suffered from the same illness that eliminated their father. Their mother was a selfish woman and ran off with her new lover, leaving the boys to fend for themselves. Vigo had to work the field of a noble family to make ends meet. Luckily for them, the lady of the house was kind to them, but Vigo inherited his mother's sinister streak and slew the dog of his employer because it ate better than them. His younger brother was a gentle one and wanted to stop the senseless madness, but he was overpowered. Vigo was caught and punished for his evil act. In retaliation, he burned the house of the noble. The younger brother left because he couldn't stand how terrible Vigo was. Vigo trained hard in the woods and attained a level high enough to easily defeat some seasoned adventurers. He took some of their equipment and later joined a party called the Silver Fang Troop. They welcomed him because he was level 80. This immediately made him second only to the party captain in strength. One day as they explored a cave, the captain wanted to talk. So the lad lured him to a secluded spot. The captain knew that Vigo was aiming to reach level 100 and advised him to work with others to make it easier. Their conversation was interrupted by a cave dragon. Vigo agitated the monster, which caused it to eradicate the captain. The other members of the party were devastated, but they voted Vigo to be their new leader. The guy smiled because it was all part of his plan. Soon after, the original members of the party left because they didn't like Vigo's affiliation to higher society. He didn't care and recruited new highly skilled members and renamed the party the Silver Wing Battalion. The flashback ended as he arrived at the meeting place. They reserved an entire hotel so that no one would accidentally see them. Vigo closed all the curtains in the room to make sure of this. These powerful forces gathered to come up with a plan to control the kingdom from the shadows. As they ate and discussed, Vivia pretended to be a server and presented a fried rice dish made by Dennis. Vigo looked at the others with disgust as they scoffed down the delicious food. He only saw them as instruments and planned to betray them to make himself seem like a hero. From there, he would build a respectable noble house and use his influence to usurp the king and become the new ruler with Katie as his queen. Joseph loved the dish so much that he asked for the chef to come out so that he could offer him a job on his estate. Vigo took a bite of the fried rice, and Dennis was the first person that came to his mind. He got on high alert when the chef came in with a bag on his head. Dennis removed his disguise while rejecting the proposal. He then called them out for burning his restaurant and used dread voice to intimidate them into confessing to all their crimes. Vigo was not affected, but realized too late that Dennis was using his skill to make the others talk. By this point, their confession was broadcasted. The captain tried to stop it and came out to see all the top authorities associated with magic at the capital dining outside. It was a pop-up restaurant that was catered by Black's restaurant, so they couldn't reject the invitation. Dennis had a checkmate smile on his face. They were all shocked and livid to hear that the rats burned the restaurant that had so many rare magic books. It was the sages and wizards that carried out the law in their kingdom. Dennis was going to leave judgment to them based on what they heard. The outcast group were happy that their plan worked. The conversation was also heard by all the barristers in the capital. Sestovich promised to hold these bad actors responsible. Vigo refused to accept the outcome and attacked Dennis. He always had the feeling that the chef would interfere with his grand plan. He wished he dealt with him more decisively, and now planned to eradicate him in the most ruthless manner. Dennis equipped his twin cleavers and imbued them with ice to meet Vigo's lightning blade. The captain unleashed a shockwave that caused rubble to fly into the air. Dennis leapt up on them, and Vigo flung a few stones that the chef blocked with a pan. He then countered with a fire attack that the captain evaded. The two locked blades again, as things flashed back to their tense first meeting. Vigo looked down on him because he was a chef, but Katie insisted he stayed. Vigo's dislike for Dennis only increased as they worked together. The chef was selfless and had the boldness to stop Vigo from doing stupid things. Presently, their battle raged on, and Vigo shattered one of Dennis's weapons with his contact destruction skill. The two continued to clash until the captain got the upper hand when he knocked Dennis back. In that heightened but vulnerable state, the chef could see the worried look on his friends' faces. He thought all the good he had done so far would help him get to level 100. Dennis came to a realization while in the air and made a smooth recovery. Before he hit the floor, he summoned his cleavers. The warm feeling he felt when he first ate Jean's fried rice was the reason he became a cook. Dennis wanted to be able to make such food for people who had been through trauma and those who had empty stomachs with no means of paying for their meals. He wanted to make people smile and have the power to protect those smiles. A sharp call from his friend snapped him out of his thoughts as Atelier told him not to lose. Dennis recalled Jean's clue on how to reach level 100. He finally understood it after his soul-searching moment. He blocked Vigo's attack, a burst of energy emitted from Dennis with enough force to blow the captain back. He realized that he wanted to be the strongest chef to protect what he holds valuable. Vigo was puzzled by what was going on, but the outcasts knew that Dennis was leveling up. The chef dashed toward Vigo as soon as the energy dispelled. He dodged the captain's projected attacks and came down with a heavy swing with his first cleaver. Vigo managed to block it, but Dennis added his second cleaver and activated his unique skill called the Forced Shop Exit Strike. The captain was pinned to the ground with such power that it caused a crater. Jean watched on and explained that the level 100 unique skill was a statement to the world and an expression of one's reason for existing. In Dennis's case, it was forced movement through space that broke all the rules of physics. Vigo had never heard of such a skill before. He couldn't resist it, so he was crushed and knocked out. Dennis was about to collapse from exhaustion, so his comrades rushed to grab him before he hit the ground. Atelier gave him back the bracelet, and they exchanged a fist bump. Katie was watching everything unfold from a hidden position and breathed a sigh of relief when the bad actors got apprehended. She later went to Black's restaurant to discuss what happened and to learn the secret to achieving level 100. Jean simply told her that those who attain that level have discovered their reason for existing in the world. Katie didn't understand what she meant. Jean felt like it was pure coincidence that two chefs that had achieved level 100 were born in the same era. But they have chosen to take different paths. She had sought to create the ultimate cuisine and become the greatest chef, while he aimed to become the strongest cook. His forced shop exit strike was a manifestation of the need to protect his territory and restaurant from intruders. The ladies found it to be funny because it wasn't really a chef move. Elsewhere, a man named Heath enjoyed some food by the riverside. His attendant thought that the defeat of Joseph and Vigo would cause a problem for their plans. Heath expected Dennis to win because the chef was his little brother. All the while, Dennis rested after his huge battle. Everyone was impressed with his healing ability, but they paid him a visit to show their new plan for the restaurant. Polvo got some artisans from the construction guild to rebuild it. Dennis was mortified after seeing what they wanted to do. Some time passed and Vivia visited Cynthia's grave to update her on life. All those involved with the evil operation were jailed. The Workstat family was currently without a head because Atelier was happy with her life. Some sages at the capital were working on a way to restore all the books that were burned, and the restaurant's rebuild was finished. The other members of the main cast had started their various jobs, so they had to gather as Dennis and Atelier did their last-minute shopping. The only thing that was left was putting up the sign. The food spot was renamed to Outcast's Restaurant. It was built to the old spec. His OG customers were the first to order. As they enjoyed the food, the others came to celebrate the opening. Drop a comment below and don't forget to like and subscribe.
Okay.